Where the Rivers Meet is a project that has been co-funded by the European Commission through its Directorate General for Justice, Freedom and Security. And it was the only Spanish project that was selected within the call for projects related to the fight against racism and xenophobia towards third country nationals. This project has a duration of 18 months and a budget of 365,000 euros. 80% of the budget has been financed by the European Commission, and the remaining 20% is the contribution of all the partners in the project.
El Gobierno valenciano está muy interesado en liderar este proyecto de cooperación europea porque entendemos que realmente mucho se ha hecho en la Comunidad Valenciana en el ámbito de las políticas de integración de las personas inmigrantes y por tanto creemos que es una oportunidad y un reconocimiento a la labor hecha por el Gobierno valenciano. Estamos hablando de nuestra comunidad, de un territorio en el que el 17% de la población es de origen extranjero, una comunidad en la que existen más de 140 nacionalidades representadas, donde se hablan más de 60 idiomas y donde se profesan más de 18 religiones. Creemos que hemos abordado el problema de la integración de la población extranjera desde un punto de vista de integración y por tanto ha sido un elemento vertebrador y de cohesión social. Existe una política institucional vertebrada a lo largo de todo el territorio de forma tal que los ciudadanos extranjeros cuando vienen a nuestro país están dirigidos perfectamente desde el punto de vista de la administración para lograr esa integración pues a través de las escuelas de acogida instaladas en muchos municipios de nuestra comunidad, en las cuales también se facilita más esa integración mediante el conocimiento del idioma y mediante el conocimiento de las costumbres españolas y por tanto este es el primer elemento básico para lograr esta integración. Y existe otro elemento que siempre nos gusta resaltar y que es fundamental, entendemos, y es la idiosincrasia del pueblo valenciano. Creemos que es muy importante porque, mire, por muchas políticas que hagamos y después la sociedad no está por la labor y no acompaña esas políticas, es difícil lograr resultados como aquí se han logrado. Somos una sociedad mediterránea, una sociedad abierta a las culturas que vienen de fuera y, por tanto, una población amable e integradora de todas estas personas que vienen de fuera.
Dealing with European projects as we were, we thought it would be a good idea to participate in calls for projects to achieve financing for a project related to citizen inclusion and especially issues that valued human dignity. And what better call to enter than the one on fundamental rights and citizenship? We selected 4 other countries to work with, and the 5 countries were Austria, Ireland, Italy, Romania, and Spain. We focused on a vulnerable community as that of women and tried to give them a safe place to talk about human dignity and to give them the opportunity to take the first step towards the greater possibilities of achieving their place in our society. This was a group where there weren't only women from the migratory flows, but there were people who reside in the Valencian region, therefore Spanish, people from any other part of the world, from the most remote places on this beautiful continent with an amazing future development before it, that is Africa. A lot of them came from Latin America, other places like Asia, etc. And we thus initiated our journey.
Pretendemos contar la problemática de unas mujeres que
What we try to recount is the problematic of these women who have left behind their lives in another country and had to travel, forced by poverty, with the added factor that in their culture, although this happens in almost every culture in the world, the mere fact of being women puts them in a difficult and a special situation.
The project has been carried out by a consortium formed by entities of 5 member states. Spain, the leader of the project, and then as partners, Romania through an NGO that works in the field of lifelong learning, Ireland also through a non-profit organization of Ghanaians, Italy with an organization that uses social theater a lot as a form of inclusion, and Austria, who is also expert in the use of social theater and with ample experience with groups in situation or at risk of social exclusion, and who had very difficult situations, so they used theater as a tool for the inclusion of these communities. The project began the 1st of January 2011 with a first stage where we had a selection process of the women who would then participate in the project. This process lasted for 2 months. Over 100 interviews were conducted in the autonomous region of Valencia. The same occurred in the other participating countries. There were women of very different backgrounds, different nationalities, from Latin America, Africa, even Asia, depending on the migratory flows typical of each partner country.
Questo progetto, come sapete, è durato 1 anno in Italia, come in tutti i paesi che hanno partecipato attivamente al festival spagnolo, e quindi necessitava proprio dell'attivazione di una rete istituzionale, quindi di enti che potessero comprendere la portata del progetto e aiutare la nostra cooperativa a poter portare avanti il progetto sul territorio. E poi necessitava anche di una rete per quanto riguarda i vari professionisti che sono stati coinvolti nell'attivazione del progetto. E quindi specificatamente mettere in scena uno spettacolo teatrale di teatro sociale prevedeva che ci fosse sì il facilitatore teatrale, però prevedeva anche che ci fosse chi si è occupato delle musiche, chi si è occupato del video e della scenografia, chi comunque ha curato i costumi, ha curato la messa in scena, quindi anche le luci, tutta una serie di ruoli che nel teatro sono fondamentali ma che spesso passano in secondo piano. Ecco, io mi sono occupata di tutti questi aspetti, di coordinare tutti questi aspetti, del backstage del nostro spettacolo, del nostro ruolo italiano.
Nos vamos a encontrar mujeres de diferentes países para soltarnos, que algo habrá que tener en común, ¿no? Y eso es lo fascinante de este encuentro, para generar material sobre nuestras vidas, ¿vale?
The project has the objective to fight racism and xenophobia towards women third country nationals in the European Union by means of social theater as a tool for social inclusion. Work is carried out through a series of workshops in which over 200 women from third countries have participated, and also women from each of the partner countries, together with institutions, NGOs, foundations and associations from each of these countries. What we wanted was to recount to the rest of the citizenship, through their life stories, the difficult situations they can face and which must not be tolerated. In the selection process, we also took into account the past of these women, the stories they told, so that they would have different profiles, different stories with which to finally create the play.
I happened to be in UK about 2 years ago, and I was in an Asian shop when a fight broke between 2 Asians, and one of them was saying, you wait and see, I'll let you be deported because you don't have papers to work here. About 15 minutes later, the police there came over, and then the man who actually called the police, the one who said he was going to report him, he was outside, so the police just bypassed him. They didn't know he was the one who called. When he saw them, he followed. Oh, then he said to them, oh no, you know, it's this man standing there. He has no papers and he's working. Can you arrest him? The policeman said to him, if you have any problem with that, contact the immigration. I am here on a criminal purpose. I'm not here to arrest any illegal immigrants.
That day on my way to work, and right in the bus, one of these Irish guy came from behind and slammed the window by my side. You know, I just said, excuse me, and the next thing just went off. Then I turned around and I said, you could have just said a simple excuse me. He just said, you this black monkey. And he went on with all the F words. I looked at him. I was panicking. Each time I talk about it, I feel it. And I just turned to him and I gave it back to him in another language he likes. And the next thing, he tried to rush towards me, sitting down in the bus. And I stood up and I said, you dare it. I'm not in this country to collect social benefit, if that is the word. And I pay you for my own hard working and tax that is being deducted. That was when he now stood back. I don't know when that one came out from me. And he couldn't, and the girlfriend was dragging me. And I said, you dare it. And I stood where I was. But to my own happiness, when I came down on the bus, what's coming down, I just kept on saying, I'm happy the camera is in there. And there's going to be a judge in there. So the driver was riding me. And by the time I was stepping, I thought he was going to come out with me. And the old people, I was the only black in that car, in that bus. And the old people were just other colors. And they all said, we're sorry. I got the accent, I knew they were Irish. Even the driver said, did like that.
I just see you, normally they just think you are Nigerian. When I was just traveling with my kids to the UK, you know when you just pass with the boat, the guard will just be standing there, the white people will just go, I'm Irish and you pass, I'm Irish and you pass, you don't even take out your ID. I pass, I say I'm Irish, they stop.
La razón que me trajo a mí aquí fue el tratar de superarme, de estudiar y más que todo la razón económica. Creo que casi a todas nos ha pasado lo mismo. La razón económica nos empuja a salir de nuestro país. Yo allí estaba trabajando, tenía un negocio, se me fue a pique y claro, me vi en la necesidad de tener que emigrar porque ya que tengo 3 hijos, pues quería darle carrera, quería darle a ellos lo que yo no pude tener. Y todo eso fue lo que me hizo salir. Aparte también, para ser sincera, un poquito lo que es el huir ya del maltrato, diríamos, psicológico de que a veces sufrimos muchas mujeres allí con los hombres.
Nu numai căsătorie. Am venit pentru un alt mod de viață, pentru un alt stil de viață.
Am venit în România deoarece vedeam România doar la ecran și mi se părea o lume de vis. Adevărat, am întâlnit și dezamăgiri. Lumea de vis, când a devenit realitate, am descoperit și neajunsuri.
Porque a venir aquí, porque allí en mi país hace tiempo, cosa de si tú no tienes trabajo para vivir, muy difícil. Entonces, si yo he escuchado gente dijo aquí hay mucho trabajo, yo a venir aquí con mi marido para turismo, pero quedamos aquí.
Vine a España por el euro. Si el euro se pone igual que el dólar o con el bolívar, que ahorita es imposible, pero si eso llega a ocurrir, pues ya no tiene sentido yo estar aquí. Porque estoy es porque se multiplica el dinero, si no, no tiene sentido.
Las razones con las que yo he venido eran razones religiosas porque yo quería ser religiosa. No se vive esa inseguridad que hay veces en mi país, por ejemplo, pues hay mucha delincuencia, mucho ladrón por la calle y tienes que andar con miedo, pero aquí no.
This is an 18-month project. Most of the women are working, some as stay-ins. They have very complicated timetables. So getting a group of women together every Saturday for a year and a half, having them regularly participate in the different workshops was also quite difficult.
È molto bella questa cosa perché si invertono le parti, no? Cioè, in un corso di teatro spesso è la persona a essere servo, tra virgolette, a servire il teatro, no? Quindi a imparare l'uso della voce, come dicevo prima, l'uso del corpo. Nel caso del teatro sociale è il teatro che diventa strumento per la conoscenza di se stessi, per il mettersi in gioco rispetto a una tematica sociale specifica. E quindi è una differenza profonda. L'obiettivo in un corso come questo, che è di teatro per il sociale, appunto non è quella di creare attori, è quella di creare persone, o meglio, le persone sono già create, è quello di aiutare le persone a approfondire la conoscenza di se stessi.
At the end of the first phase of the project, we needed to start working with them on drama issues and theatrical techniques.
Verschwindet einfach in den Traum.
Klar.
The second phase of the project started in September 2011, and during this phase we had about 14 women participants from about 7 different countries.
The work dynamic that we tried to achieve at the beginning was essentially aimed at forming a group. This involved doing exercises in which they would get to know each other, we would all get to know one another, and so that a group dynamic would be created where they could start to gather the confidence needed to express themselves and open up, little by little, and tell us about their problems. This took us 4 or 5 sessions, but I have to say that the time it took them to open up was very short.
Pero hay que decir que el ritmo de apertura fue muy rápido.
Es que no así, así es.
Empezamos con sí, no. Sí, sí.
¿Sí?
¿Sí?
No.
No, bien. ¿Notasteis que os costaba? ¿No os costaba? ¿No te costaba nada? ¿Alguien ha notado que le costara especialmente?
Hacia atrás muy bien, se relajaba muy bien. Hacia adelante era que sentía la sensación como que uno se fuera a caer.
Vale, mirad, vamos a ponernos en 2 líneas, unas frente a otras. ¿Estáis una frente a otra ahora? ¿Sí? No, poneros una frente a otra. Y entonces ahora Carol va a caminar por aquí así. Venga, una lluvia, Carol. Venga, date fuerte, que ha caído fuerte, hombre.
Gli esercizi teatrali che il conduttore sceglie aiutano sicuramente a riflettere sul tema scelto, in questo caso la discriminazione razziale di genere, in modo molto più ampio che una riflessione puramente cognitiva, perché il teatro ti permette di riflettere su più livelli di coscienza rispetto al tema, utilizzando tutte le varie tipologie di intelligenze di cui noi disponiamo, ma anche ti permette di riflettere e rielaborare le tematiche da un punto di vista fisico.
For the first, it was necessary and important to make an intense physical training of voice, make a lot of improvisations to discover the possibilities of physical expression of their own voice, to listen how loud this voice can be. It was, for some of them, was an amazing experience.
We started using a mix of dynamics of openness, of self-expression, but at the same time gradually introducing theatrical techniques that will later allow them to face the theatrical fact. The fact of having to stage a text with just a little more confidence. So we had to work on body language, voice training, and then starting from the group dynamic, we entered that dynamic of collecting information. For the text of the play, what we did was to listen. The text is basically formed by short stories based on what they told us.
A partir de lo que ellas nos han ido contando.
Entonces, bueno, déjame llamar a mi hermano a ver. Sacas tu móvil y le dices, voy con otro hermano.
Que un grupo de mujeres que llegaron a nuestra comunidad.
This is a group of women who came to our region, leaving behind their families, their lives, and found a new society, a welcoming and open one, like the Valencian. And they explained why they came, their reasons, and also their experiences here. They talk about their lives, as hard as that is, since they left behind not only their families, but their children too. To start a new life in a land as Valencia, a welcoming land where they feel included and like all Valencians.
Con la integración de todos aquellos que vienen a nuestra tierra buscando nuevas oportunidades.
¿Quién es el grupo voluntario para empezar?
Porque ellos tienen sus obligaciones.
María, estoy aquí con la madre.
Mira, hablando de los hijos, mira, llegó.
¿Cómo está, mamá? ¿Cómo le ha ido? ¿Cómo le ha ido?
¿Qué es lo que pasa, María? Bueno, un momentico, Pepa, ¿pero qué es lo que pasa, animal?
Principalmente dinámicas de grupo para...
We mainly use group dynamics that allow them to have enough confidence, being in the group surrounded by these people, to open up and tell their stories. And then, of course, exercises that will bring them closer to what would be the last phase of their work in the project, as actresses, closer to the purely theatrical fact.
A ver, comentarios. Faltaba un poquito de claridad, y aparte este es un espacio complicado, recordadlo. La voz reverbera mucho y si empezamos a hablar todos a la vez no se entiende un carajo. ¿Qué más?
In truth, we rarely look closely at such issues and move beyond the cliché, and we don't know in any depth the stories of people like the ones who have participated in the workshops. In addition, not all the women who have participated in the workshops are in the play. Some of them got lost on the way because they had to work or for whatever reason, and the amazing thing was that when listening to such different stories of such different people, we came across things that were absolutely common to all of them.
Y ver cómo habían cosas que eran absolutamente comunes entre ellas.
So this was... El espacio que ves es nuevo, ¿de acuerdo? Tú ya sabes que tienes pies, manos, izquierdas, veo el espacio, se ven cosas, y se ven cosas objetivas. Mirarle la cara. Mirarle la cara. Cuando una máscara neutra se lleva bien, donde se ve es en el rostro. Porque el rostro adquiere esa calma, ¿vale? Entonces, muy bien. Muy bien.
The European Union is based on values such as human dignity, freedom, democracy, equality, state of law, and respect of the human rights. The European Union actively promotes and protects the universality and indivisibility of these rights. These values are stated in the Treaty on European Union and in the successive treaties like the Treaty of Lisbon and in the Charter of Human Rights.
Ha un'importanza soprattutto in questo tempo di crisi che ha portato comunque una disgregazione delle relazioni sociali, all'importanza del risveglio, nel senso che la cultura, il teatro sono quel mezzo, quello strumento proprio per riportare le persone al pensare e al dialogare di nuovo tra di loro. Credo che questo sia un elemento importante proprio per ripensare anche un nuovo modello di società che ci porti a essere più uniti e anche più coesi di fronte alle difficoltà.
I think the project Where the Rivers Meet contributes to creating a complete citizenship for women.
Una ciudadanía plena de mujeres, ¿no?
Das ist ihre schwierig, ja.
Yo llegué al proyecto invitado por Tony para codirigirlo justo cuando
I joined the project invited by Tony in order to co-direct it, when a great deal of good work had already been done on technique, workshops and theatrical games for confidence gaining, and generally work aimed at creating what in theater we call the theatrical family, the company. The women had been trained to become a theater group. There were some notes on the story, but there was a need to dramatize. There is always an undeniable fact, and that is that there were a lot of stories. Each woman had several stories, so there was a need to initiate a process of synthesis. But before that, I suggested some theatrical games to create confidence with me because I had just arrived.
¿Solo una? Si no pasarán que no nos acordamos de lo que venía luego y tal. Aquí, en este bloque, corriendo a coger la madera.
La hermana de mi madre fue en los 60.
My mother's sister went to Germany in the 60s with her husband. So now they were back, retired, with no children. And I lived this quite intensely because as she had no children of her own, her nephews meant a lot to her. And I could see, especially as an adult, how immigrants after their active years may feel as immigrants in their own country. I think theater is a fantastic exercise in empathy, that is to say, in walking in somebody else's shoes. And being able to ask questions to the audience and the audience being able to create their own answers, often from the soul, because they can put themselves in the situation of the person on stage. I think in this period of mainly economic crisis, but also moral crisis related to the economic crisis, we see how European institutions and the European Union promote activities, initiatives of inclusion for immigrant people, because it may be more necessary now than ever before. I think women in general and immigrant women in particular suffer a double discrimination because they are women and because they are immigrants.
Hay que quitarle la tensión.
No son las que se me enredan.
Pero fíjate la mano, este dedo no lo está. La mano tiene que caer. Vale.
We have to bear in mind and highlight somehow that these women are reliving their personal stories in the first person. They are not acting. They are actually representing their own life experiences and emphasizing their situation, and I think this is commendable and something to keep in mind. I would also like to emphasize their evolution, since I was lucky enough to witness several rehearsals. And so I could observe the evolution in confidence, in their participation, in their own credibility, in the sense that they see this as a second chance. This has the objective of overcoming the situation of vulnerability of these 200 women participants, and we have managed to emphasize their social rights and their human dignity. These women come from very different situations, and we're brave enough to start a new life, and I think this play gives them a new opportunity in life and in their personal evolution.
Aunque son mujeres de diversos niveles,
Even though they are women of different cultural backgrounds, some with great intellectual capacity, others with a minimum of training, many of them carry around traumas, and this was like group therapy for them. Because within the group, not all are immigrants, some are even refugees, and for them, the experience here is even more traumatic.
más traumáticamente sus experiencias aquí.
Es un proyecto interesantísimo sobre.
This is a very interesting project on how different cultures may come together through theater. It's fantastic and a great idea that I hope enjoys great success and we would love to hear more of in the future.
Vemos con mucho bien, no?
Il teatro come è concepito oggi è qualcosa di interattivo. L'attore in certe esperienze teatrali chiama proprio direttamente il pubblico a partecipare alla propria prestazione, ma quando anche non si arrivi a situazioni di questo genere, credo che comunque il feedback della rappresentazione teatrale normale, quella in cui gli attori si presentano su un palco di fronte a un pubblico che assiste e applaude quando vuole applaudire, comunque c'è un feedback notevole.
Theater is always an inclusion tool because, first of all, it allows people to feel identified with what happens on stage, but in addition, when it is you on stage working, that identification is doubled because it makes you try harder to express yourself and to find your own experience. In this sense, they integrate better, and they have achieved an important inclusion process because they were able to tell us what is happening or has happened in their lives, what they fear, what they miss, etc. And then inclusion in the sense that a group was formed, a relationship was established, and also a relationship between them and the administration, since it was the European Union and the Valencian government who gave them the chance to do this.
Sicuramente credo che questo possa essere da considerarsi uno degli aspetti di grande successo di questo progetto teatrale, il fatto che nel corso dell'anno queste donne che hanno iniziato con la leggerezza dell'idea di partecipare a un corso di teatro, che poi si è tramutata in un faccio parte di un gruppo e condivido delle esperienze anche forti della mia vita e le rielaboro con questo gruppo, perché scelgo di lavorarci su a queste cose, per cambiare il mio modo di vedere le cose rispetto alla discriminazione. E poi a questo aggiungere il fatto di mettersi in gioco direttamente e anche fisicamente in uno spettacolo teatrale sicuramente è una grande conquista ed è il segno che un progetto di questo tipo può, come dire, può davvero aiutare a portare una cittadinanza attiva.
Once the second phase of the project was over and the plays were written in each of the 5 countries, what we did was begin to organize an international theater festival that would bring together all these countries in one place, the city of Valencia, to show this project to the whole citizenship and make them aware of the situation of foreigners in all these countries. Over 200 people came to see each of the plays. For the Austrian play, there were people from Austria or Germany. For the Romanian play, the public was mostly Romanian. And it was very emotional when the lights came on after the show to see people crying. They told us that it was very emotional for them, after many years in Spain, to see a play in their own language and which told their story, because this was about immigration, which they also lived firsthand. It brought back memories for them, and it was great to see how deeply they were touched. In addition to staging the plays, we also try to reach the rest of the citizenship, to put Valencia in the center of the fight against racism and xenophobia, and also to give the rest of the entities that didn't have a chance to participate in the project the opportunity to experience firsthand all these workshops on techniques used to treat issues like racism and xenophobia. So we organized 15 social theater workshops in different locations in the city of Valencia, both indoors and outdoors, like youth centers, cultural venues, busy squares where people would go through and see the work done with these women throughout the project. The facilitators replicated workshops used previously, and they were open to all entities for a certain amount of time, and so all kinds of people were able to experience firsthand the work done in the project since January last year.
Muy importante el que se haya contado con nosotros en Europa, porque no deja de ser un reconocimiento a la labor que estamos haciendo en esta comunidad a favor de la integración, de la convivencia entre culturas, contra la xenofobia, el racismo. Creo que estamos actuando, y lo digo honestamente, estamos realizando una buena labor, queda mucho por hacer, pero creemos que son momentos complicados y hay que reforzar los esfuerzos, y esto es otra forma de luchar en ese sentido, dar a conocer a toda la sociedad precisamente la situación de la realidad pues de estas mujeres inmigrantes, lo complicado que es para ellas venir aquí, adaptarse a una sociedad que es distinta, con todos los problemas de por sí que llevan detrás por sus circunstancias personales, y por tanto es bueno que conozcan pues que toda la sociedad está aquí para apoyarla, porque es una cosa que tenemos muy claro, este es el criterio que estamos manteniendo en nuestra comunidad.
Stop. Lo importante del trabajo no es el resultado, ha sido el camino.
The important thing is not the end result, it is the trip that brought us here. It's working every week with a group of women that had absolutely nothing to do with theater, and honestly, now I see them up on a stage working and I can't believe how they've changed during this year and how they gradually opened up and further express what is going on in their lives. The show is all theirs. The only thing I did, together with Sergio Villanueva, is take notes and offer some advice. But this was about receiving their stories, and there are stories that break your heart. And then just basically write the play with everything they've told us and direct them while interpreting themselves or their colleagues.
Señoras, señores, faltan 2 minutos para que comience la representación.
Es vuestra historia, chicas, es vuestra historia, es vuestra experiencia. O sea, ahora se trata de tener generosidad para soltarla con fuerza, voz, ¿vale? Voz, que se os escuche bien, hablar con las compañeras.
It was a complete success. The show was actually sold out. And since the 24 actresses all reside here in the Valencian region, they were very excited and wanted to bring their entire families, their parents, their children, grandparents, friends. So we quickly reached the full capacity of the theater, since we also had a lot of immigrant associations that wanted to see the play and how we have portrayed their situation, the image that would be projected on the immigration phenomenon, and who were really interested in learning about the project. So what we did was to have an open dress rehearsal so that the families of all the actresses could come. And then we had the premiere of the play, which was sold out, with all the entities interested in the project, the general public, and also the families of the participating women.
Mi paso se hizo erguido. Descubrí vecinas. Mi niña me enseñó a abrigar el invierno. Mi niña hizo crecer mis alas, ensanchó mi montura para que cabalgara. Mi niña me enseñó desde el recuerdo de mi tierra. Mi niña me enseñó a amar a España.
El resultado ha sido espectacular. Llevan un año y medio trabajando, pero yo creo que los resultados se han visto. Estamos hablando de mujeres que no tenían antes ningún contacto con este tipo de actividades y realmente el que no lo sepa, pues no se lo creen. Por tanto, lo primero, pues agradecimiento y reconocimiento por el esfuerzo, por el trabajo y por el resultado que se ha visto. Y en segundo lugar, también yo creo que es muy impactante el mensaje que han dado. Yo creo que en esta época es importante valorar la situación de estas personas que han llegado aquí, que lo han pasado muy mal, que han dejado sus familias en sus países de origen. Y yo creo que solo eso demuestra una valentía y un esfuerzo digno de reconocimiento y que creo que todas las conciencias de los que aquí estamos, en esta época complicada y que a veces se dan mensajes distorsionados o mensajes interesados, conviene tener en cuenta esto, que se trata de personas con sus sufrimientos, con sus familias, que lo están pasando muy mal y por tanto ese mensaje creo que es muy entrañable y realmente es un mensaje que hay que valorar, tener en cuenta y transmitir. Por eso desde la Consellería vamos a hacer lo posible, lo vamos a hacer, que esta obra se pueda ver en otros municipios de la comunidad, porque creo que el mensaje es muy importante que se siga transmitiendo a los valencianos.
Despierta la voz dormida. Es el eco lejano de los que un día partieron. Una voz que grita recordando. No olvidemos lo que fuimos, no olvidemos lo que podemos ser. No seamos un pueblo emigrante enfermo de amnesia. Cuando ahora, más que nunca, vivimos todos
¡bajo el mismo cielo!
No importan las fronteras, no importan las geografías, no importan
Borders, geography, race, religions are not important because we are all under the same sky. It is essential to keep promoting projects that not only bring together a group of people with a certain social factor, but also, even when still working with these dynamics, not to give up on the idea of bringing together people of different backgrounds, with different motivations in life.
Condición y de porqués en sus vidas, ¿no?
At the end of the project, women participants had high self-confidence. Their self-expression, improvisation were also increased. They were able to express themselves better. The project has transformed a lot of people's lives.
I think it's really important to support such projects because Where the Rivers Meet talks a lot about migration, and it's told from migrants. So such kind of projects giving people who are marginalized in some way their voice.
Yo apuntaría el hecho de lo diferentes que somos.
I would like to point out how different we are and how similar we are at the same time. We each come from a different place, and one would think we don't have anything in common with the Austrians or Italy, Ireland, and then however you watch the shows and see how in the direction of the play you come to similar solutions because we are telling the same story. And even though the issue is seen through the prism of the Austrian society or the Spanish, Italian, Irish or Romanian, the situations are very similar. And what we wanted to tell was the story of this trip we all have lived, essentially due to poverty. And I think it was interesting to see how we were all very different on a personal level, but we were actually saying the same thing, and that was reflected in the shows. and is one of the most enriching parts of the project, and also one of the things I like most about the European Union. Because at a time of economic and political turmoil, and of a tendency to isolate oneself through small-minded nationalist approaches, I think we must stress the value of the European Union that has so many differences and at the same time so many things in common. This is another thing that was very enriching for me personally. Not only knowing all these women who come from different parts of the world, but also working with European partners who work in a very different way, but we speak the same language because we live through theater and for theater. And so we have much more things in common than things that make us different.
Para y por el teatro, ¿no? Y en ese sentido tenemos mucho más en común que cosas que nos diferencian. Decir lo que está pensando.
Con este ejercicio vamos a moldear la cadera. Quiero pensar. ¡No!
Estamos haciendo de vosotras.
Yo la ya.
de l'organisation de cette poste